fun ways to catch bass is with a frog and is also with a punch rig. And today on Bass Fishing Declassified, we're going to go down to which way we would prefer to catch bass on these two techniques in the summer.
All right, everybody, so the debate is, which one would you rather throw in the summertime, a hollow body frog or a punching rig? And, you know, I had to think about that one because both of them are very, very good. They can be very good during the summertime, especially on grass lakes. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be punching if you don't have grass, unless you got some, like, junk mats of, like, blown-in wood or something like that. I have seen that play a role. But, you know, thinking about it, really, it came back to punching as my all-time favorite for summertime. And the reason for this is this. During the summertime, fish, if there's vegetation, they dig into that vegetation and they're a little bit more lethargic. You really have to go in after those fish. They're not willing to get out of that cover to attack something in a lot of cases. That's not always true, but by and large, that's kind of the general theme, is more lethargic fish and you have to go in after them. And that's why a punching rig is so effective during the summer. You know, during the fall, when you start seeing cooler nights again, you know, later in the year, that's when it transitions from being a predominantly punching bite to a frog bite, especially on the Tennessee River lakes. You know, I really like to focus on going in after those fish when it's hot and they're not willing to move a lot. And then once you start getting those cooler nights where you have to put a sweatshirt on, or it's noticeably cooler when you wake up and to hitch up the boat, that's when the frog starts really playing a role. Again, you can use both of them. They are interchangeable in a lot of situations, but I definitely favor a punching rig. So let's talk about the punching setup that I like. Now, number one, I'm here at Eufaula, Oklahoma, so I don't have the punching rod that I like to use. First off, I use a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio bait casting reel, a VLD10 from Fitzgerald. That is the reel that I like to use. You know, I've experimented with lower speed gear ratio reels, which bring in the rig a little bit too slow, and sometimes you hit the side of the boat because you can't just reel fast enough. And then the ones that are too fast, like in the burner ratios, those tend to have less torque. So it's just going to be a lot harder to crank fish out of that cover. But the 7.2 to 1 seems to be the perfect medium. So that's the reason I like that gear ratio. And then I like the punching rod that I like to use is called the Titan HD series from Fitzgerald. Trevor Fitzgerald, he designed the Titan HDs specifically for punching. All right, so heavy tackle. I like the 710 heavy. That's the one that I like to use. It's just perfectly balanced. It's a really good rod. But you want a big, longer, 7.5 plus to almost to 8 foot, heavy action rod. It's really kind of a broomstick, but you need that to get those nice jarring hook sets and to pull those fish out of the cover. As far as the rest of the tackle goes, the line that you're going to be using for punching is so super important. You need heavy braided line. If you're punching vegetation, you need braid. I use 65-pound test. This is Seaguar Smackdown, and it's in the stealth gray color. And then other than that, we're going to be using, a variety of different punching weights, anything from 3/4 ounce, as light as 3/4 ounce, all the way up to 2 ounces. And so that's a Fitzgerald punching weight there. We're going to be pegging it to the braided line with a little bobber stopper, like you can see here. And I also end up adding a flippin' bead to the whole setup. That adds a little bit of clacking noise, and also it gets a little bit of a separation between the knot and the weight. And also I like to use an EWG hook. That's one of the things that's a little bit different for me versus a lot of anglers. Now a lot of people, including myself, years ago hopped on the straight shank train, and a lot of people have great success with it. I've lost a ton of fish on a straight shank. So I use an EWG and I don't snell it. I just use a traditional polymer, usually do an extra loop, so a double polymer, and that is what I like to use. That is the Hayabusa 959. It's an incredibly strong hook, and just hooks them in the meatiest places in their mouth. And then my flipping bait of choice really varies. A lot of times it's the turbo crowds from Jimi. I don't have any of those. I also will flip the palmetto bugs. This is another really good bait to flip. In general, what you're looking for with a punching bait is something more compact that can slip through that cover very, very quickly, and that imitates anything from little crayfish to little grass shrimp or even bluegill down there underneath the surface. But really it's more about having the compact profile to get through that cover. But anyways, guys, that is the reason why I like to use punching during the summer versus a hollow body frog.
Hey guys, Kyle Cordion here with Bass Fishing Declassified. Listen, today I'm supposed to tell you whether or not I prefer to throw a frog or prefer punching mats when it comes to fishing. So one versus the other. Bottom line is, I like catching fish. I love punching mats, that's a blast. But if I got to pick between throwing a frog and punching a mat, I'm gonna pick throwing a frog, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm gonna tell you the baits I like to throw and a little setup, maybe a little tip or two. But if I'm gonna pick between the two, I'm probably gonna throw a frog. And the reason I'm gonna throw a frog is because a frog is a lot more diverse than a punching rig. You lose fish doing both, but you probably lose less fish on a frog than you do punching, in my opinion, because I'm talking about punching really thick, heavy cover. It's hard to get them big fish out of there. You're targeting a lot of the same environment with both of those, but a frog is a lot more diverse. So you can be fishing thick vegetation with a frog. You're looking for the holes or the edges, but you can also throw a frog around laydowns. You're talking about shallow bank grass that's growing, that's submerged and exposing itself at the top. So to me, a frog's really diverse. You can even throw it around the front of docks and frog around docks and stuff. So I love throwing a frog, and the frog I love to throw is the Booyah Pad Crasher. And the reason I like to throw that is because compared to like a Spro or some of the other competitor frogs, this body is really soft, and that's the reason you lose a lot of fish on a frog, is because you have a really hard body and those hooks are kind of hard to get out. Now you can take some pliers and bend the hooks out, and that helps a ton, but this thing right out of the package, it's soft enough that when the fish bite it, you can see just how easy it is and how squishy it is. Also, the other thing about a Spro is the hook can actually come all the way out of the frog. So like if I pulled this hard enough, the hook itself will come out of there. And a lot of times I like that because again, when I'm fighting that fish, the frog gets out of the way, there's a little more freedom to that, and then you can just push the hook right back down and in and set it right back up. I always cut the legs a different length so that I get a better walking action out of that. You can see that this frog here has already been chewed up quite a bit. But typically for colors, and don't forget, you can pick up these Booyah frogs at lurenet.com. Use my coupon code Cordiana15, saves you 15%, and you get them cheaper there than anywhere else. I always tell people right off the bat, you only need two colors to start off with frog fishing. You need a white one, you need a black one. You need a black one for low light conditions. I'm talking about like water clarity is really muddy, not very good. I love that. I like a white frog with better clarity water if there's a shad spawn going on. But really try both of those. That's all you really need. But every now and then you want to step up your game, get a little bit fancy. Go with something perch colored. Now this is a poppin' pad crasher, so they've got both. So the poppin' pad crasher is going to have the little lip in it, and it's going to create more boom, boom. And then you got what they call a skimmer frog, which is just these that don't have the engraved nose at the front. But like these are two of my favorite little sleeper colors. This one's Sunburn. It's got a nice brown belly to it. I need to take them out of the package, but the color of the belly is just like that, but it's a little bit lighter in the bottom. And this is Disco Ball. I just caught a giant on this the other day, fishing grass mats. So Disco Ball is really awesome. Again, if there's shad, alewife, herring spawn, anything like that, and you want to throw this in vegetation or bushes, this is going to get you bites, just like having a white buzzbait or a white horny toad or any of those other kind of things. So this one. And then again, if you've got bluegill or other things dark colored, Even crawfish live in vegetation, so this could even get a bass to eat this if it's eating crawdads and that. So those are the things I like to throw. Those are coming in the tricky little colors, again, also with the perch colored one. This is called bullfrog, I believe. But I already told you about cutting the tails. When I'm throwing a frog, I like to throw it on a 7-foot medium heavy rod, maybe a heavy, but medium heavy I like the best, no longer than 7 foot. In fact, I even like a shorter rod. I have a 6.6 that I throw, and the reason for that is a lot of times I'm trying to skip this in and around docks and laydowns and vegetation that has logs laying in it, and I want to be able to make that accurate little cast to where I can work that frog in that tiny little hole in the grass or that tiny little target that I'm hitting. And a shorter rod helps you make a more accurate cast. I like a good fast tip on it, so that's why I kind of lean towards medium heavy with an extra fast tip as opposed to like a heavy action rod. But if it's extra thick cover, you might need that heavier rod. That goes straight to the line. I throw this. This is a Kistler Series 1 reel. This is an 8.1 gear ratio, 8.1 to 1 gear ratio, so you get them out of there fast. I throw anywhere from 30 to 50 pound braid. I like throwing the 30. A lot of guys don't go that light. I just think it casts a lot better, but if I'm in really, really heavy cover, I'll step up my line capacity up to 50. And yeah, I mean, that's the setup. 7 foot medium heavy. This is a Kistler Z-Bone, and that's it, guys. That's what I'd pick. What would you pick? Punching or frogging?
If you guys enjoy the content in this video and want more personalized instruction, head to our website, fishthemoment.com. Then go to the virtual lessons page. Here you can book one-on-one virtual lessons with each member of the Fish the Moment team. In these 1-hour lessons, the Fish the Moment team member will break down your lake using Google Earth and a contour line map and answer any questions you have. Whether you're preparing for an upcoming fishing tournament or a fun weekend on the lake, make sure you sign up for one of these one-on-one virtual lessons so you're fully prepared to catch as many fish as possible on the water. Check them out at fishthemoment.com.
Okay guys, it's hard to decide on how I rather would catch them, on a frog or punching. But my friends that know me, my fellow anglers, know I am a punch guy. Guys, I love to punch mats and catch fish. And it's something that you could say is pretty new to me. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I moved down to a different part of the state where I'm living at right now. There's a lake nearby, Lake Millwood, as you've seen footage from, and people that know I fish it a lot, and it's became a very, very lake that I'm familiar with. One of the ways you catch them there is by punching, and it was totally new to me 4 or 5 years ago. Guys, I've never ever even owned a 1 ounce weight. So when I got my rig set up and started doing this, man, I became, you could say, addicted to it. It was a fun bite. It was probably, I think, that 2020 year. I don't want to make my years mixed up. I think I caught 2 bass in the 7-pound range punching. And guys, I mean, like I said, that right then, I'm hooked, okay? Now, with that, last year I did not punch as much as I would have liked to. And this year I've already had one really good punching trip, and I'm going to try to get more trips with the punch rig. Last year I was doing specific videos with Fish the Moment, and you know, we kind of have a content deal we go by. But this year, guys, I want to try to get some punching footage for you guys and some punching content. What I love to punch with, okay, and I've been punching with this for 3 years, okay, this is the Big Bite Baits BFE, okay, BFE Big Bite Baits. Now, I caught it the BFE for just 2 years. And then eventually I found out that BFE meant best flipper ever. What a name, okay? Best flipper ever. You can Texas rig and flip this, you know. If you're fishing a pond, you're fishing a lake, you want to flip, you can flip it. You can probably put on a Carolina rig. But guys, I love to punch with it, okay? This thing right here, I love the profile of it. As you see, it is not too bulky, it is not too big, and there's not too many appendages on it. This little one appendage right here does everything I think you need when you're going into heavy cover. Another soft plastic lure that I did like to punch with before I fell in love with the BFE was just the Zoom Z-Craw Junior, okay? But with that Z-Craw Junior, it was a little thin, okay? Where this dude here, I should pull another one out, is kind of more fatter, okay? That thinner on that Z-Craw Junior, just how that craw body's made, you catch 1 or 2 fish, it's done. Sometimes it was done before you caught a fish because you're punching that dude into covers, and you know you can't have your hook exposed because of all the stuff you're punching around. But this guy right here, I mean, it is made for these types of situations that we're fishing. So with it, so like I said, it's more of a rounded tube style body. You have your little appendage right there. There's a little flipper, okay, and then you do have a little spot right there for the hook. Now, guys, on the punching, and I did this a bunch of ways. So if you're watching this and you're not a puncher, man, you got to go with a straight heavy cover worm hook, okay? This is a Gamakatsu 3/0 hook size, okay? I like to go with that smaller hook size to make sure the whole fish gets it in the mouth, and just when you're punching it through those covering those areas, just that smaller hook gets through some of it a little better, okay? Now, guys, on weight, this is a homemade tungsten weight from a company that used to be down the road, and it was black. Now it's kind of silver. I got black, silver. Never really saw that made a difference. It's 1 ounce. I go with the 1 ounce or heavier, okay? 1 ounce or heavier. Braid, I'm using heavy braid, 50-pound braid typically, and as you see, I do have it pegged. It's a must to have it pegged, I think, in these scenarios when you're punching these mats. Okay, guys, for my rod, and kind of disregard what's on here right now, okay? We'll talk about the lure that's on this rod in a minute. This rod's versatile. I use it for punching. I use it to throw an Alabama rig on, and I also use it for spooning, as you see what's on here. It's my Denali Attack series. It's a 710 extra heavy rod. I'm pretty sure, yep, 710 extra heavy. As you see, it has a spoon on it right now. It has a fluorocarbon line. This is not the reel I would use when I'm punching, okay? I have another reel. I like to use more of a higher gear ratio reel. I have gone slower though, but after fishing it as much, that higher gear ratio helps you get it out of cover. So like I said, this rod here, Denali Attacks, it's a very good quality rod that is very versatile, okay? So for me, a guy like me, I don't just have a punch rod. It's like this one rod does 3 things for me. Now, maybe in another couple months, I'll have a rod that's just an Alabama rig rod or a punch rod, but this Denali Attack 710 extra heavy can do multiple things that you need for certain situations, like punching, throwing a giant spoon like you see, Alabama rig. Now, guys, let's talk about areas where you want to punch this, because you hear punching mats. There is something to it, okay? So let's say you have your lake, all right? Typically, depending on the lake and the size of the lake, the area, but you're going to try to find mats that are going to be related to deeper water. And typically that deeper water can be a river channel, could be a creek channel, but you want to find those mats. Let's say you have a mats, that's just mats everywhere, okay? And it's hard to, like I said, find them fish. Look for the deeper water first. And one thing I know from just my experience of fishing mats and punching lily pads, big old grass, and just that sort of deal, if you find one, there's typically more there. So when you find one, break down that area, slow down, okay? I'm not going to say power pole down, because I don't have power poles. So slow down, pick it apart, and try to see if you can get more bites. I just know the lake I live by, they're typically kind of grouped up. Now, sometimes them single big fish can be by themselves, but they're typically together. So guys, so one thing with the deeper water too, depending on your area, look for mats that might be positioned around current, okay? Look for grass, your areas that's going to be around current, and then fish will get in that grass, and they're just hanging out there because the grass is kind of holding them. As currents bringing water by and bringing other food sources by, they're going to come out and eat it. But you can drop that dude right there on top of them and get them out. Okay, guys, I love punching. Hopefully this has helped you out, and we will see you on the next one.